Remember Overwatch 2? Well, it's back, or at least it's trying to make a comeback. After losing ground to newer competitors like Marvel Rivals, the game is now fighting for its life to regain its former popularity. To win back its dwindling player base, the developers has unveiled a roadmap detailing updates planned for the rest of this upcoming year. Yes, a roadmap, because who doesn't love one of those? Though let's be honest, roadmaps don't always live up to the hype, do they now? Among the updates teased, some stand out to me. Stuff like the return of 6v6, hero bans, which sounds oddly familiar, new heroes, map bans, and a third-person perspective mode. There's also a new character upgrading system that frankly I don't quite understand yet, and best of all, get this one, the return of loot boxes? You've done it again, Overwatch, bringing back something in the past to bring back your audience back. These updates have actually helped Overwatch 2 surpass Marvel Rivals in Twitch viewership. But don't bother checking active player counts because that's not really the point here. That's irrelevant. But what's Marvel Rivals doing in response? Well, first of all, they shouldn't be worried about this. Like, honestly, they're chilling. But to answer that question, they're just gearing up for their own mid-season updates and sticking to their own path. There's also a weird pattern with Overwatch. There's also a weird pattern with Overwatch, on the other hand, where they always seem to make big moves and updates when another game threatens to overtake them, and when there's no threat around, they sit back and let the game get run by 12-year-olds. I mean, this makes sense because if you're the only game for a specific market category, why change or even bother improving when there's like no threat to take you down? That's the perk of being a monopoly, baby. However, this doesn't stop us from realizing what kind of a company they are and how much they respect their community. For example, the cancellation of the much hyped PvE mode was a huge letdown, especially since it was a core selling point for Overwatch 2. To make matters worse, the developers didn't even offer refunds for those who bought the game expecting PvE. And don't get me started on the lack of skins for some heroes. Like, fan concerns are also seemingly ignored with that. Oh yeah, one question to Overwatch. 6v6. What are you doing? They're treating it like it's a new development and it takes months to like finally implement it, even though they had it since launch for the original. On top of that, it seems like they're adding in some stuff, like some old features back into Overwatch 2 as like a desperate move to bring back their old players. Like, oh, we have nostalgia, oh, loot boxes, 6v6, it's just like the game you guys grew up with, you know, come back, come back. Sure, I'll give them their roses for trying to stay relevant for this long, like it's almost a decade old at this point, and for trying something new like the third person mode, for example. But to bring back old stuff and labeling it as new, even though it's been part of the game since the original, shouldn't be something to be proud of. It should have stuck with the product since birth. So what's my take on all of this? Well, if you couldn't tell by now, I'm not impressed. As mentioned before, Overwatch 2 is almost a decade old now. Let that sink in. And I can't just bring myself to care anymore. The main reason why I stuck with Overwatch for the longest of time was because it was the only somewhat good competitive team-based game on the market. And now that Marvel Rivals is out, I have really no reason to stay with Overwatch anymore now that I can replace it with something better, in my opinion. Now, if you're still enjoying it, like, more power to you. Like, I'm glad you're enjoying it, but personally, I'm ready to move on, especially with a better alternative on the market. If nothing else, this rivalry between Overwatch and Marvel Rivals is actually a good thing, because it will push both companies to improve their games, which is a win for us, the players, the consumers. It's like watching two people fighting over you to see who you will go out with. In conclusion, Overwatch 2 is making a play for a comeback, but whether it succeeds or not is still up in the air. But at the end of the day, I'd rather play something that respects its community and something that feels a little bit more fresh. Whether you're a fan of Marvel Rivals or Overwatch, this competition will push both games to improve. But who will rise and who will fall? That is the question. But only time will tell, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you today. This is kind of not a surprising move for Overwatch. They're not going to go down without a fight, of course, but that is pretty much what I do have for you today, though. So that is it. See ya, and bye-bye.
I just can't fucking compete!